WBT.
Huh? It's 5:05 and welcome into a Friday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Nick Craig. Good morning to you. Turning our attention to Washington, D.C. this morning, and the 119th Congress is already on the move. Earlier this week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed House Resolution 29, better known as the Laken-Riley Act, by a bipartisan vote of 264 to 159, with 48 Democrats voting in favor of the legislation. With that, North Carolina lawmakers making some news on this. Freshman Representative and Congressman Pat Harrigan, who serves Congressional District 10 here in North Carolina, said the Biden-Harris administration's failure to enforce our immigration laws cost Laken-Riley her life. Her murderer, someone who should have never been in this country, exploited a broken system and destroyed a family. The Laken-Riley Act is a promise to every American family that we will secure our borders, uphold the rule of law, and stop these preventable tragedies. Enough is enough. House Resolution 29 has two primary purposes. First, it amends federal law to require Immigration and Customs Enforcement to issue detainers and take custody of illegal aliens who commit theft-related crimes as defined by state and federal law. That might sound familiar to you. Recently here in North Carolina, it was, of course, last year, but just a couple of months ago, you had the North Carolina House and Senate overriding a veto of House Bill 10, which did require all sheriffs in all 100 counties to cooperate with ICE and enforce those ICE detainers, so a little tie there. And secondly, according to a press release, it allows state attorney generals to sue the Department of Homeland Security for injunctive relief, such as parole, violations of detention, or other policies that harm the state or its citizens. The Laken-Riley Act is named for a nursing student at the University of Georgia who was brutally stabbed to death in February of last year while jogging on campus. The bill directly addresses Riley's circumstances of her murder because Riley's convicted murderer, a Venezuelan man known as Jose Albarra, had previously been cited for shoplifting by the Athens Police Department. The bill was introduced by Representative Mike Collins. In some other comments coming in from North Carolina representatives, Richard Hudson said he serves Congressional District 9. Laken was brutally murdered by an illegal criminal who shouldn't have been in our country in the first place. We must ensure no American endures what Laken did, and this bill does just that. Some other comments coming in from Congressman Brad Knott out of NC 13, saying, as a federal prosecutor, I saw firsthand how criminal illegal immigrants disregard our laws with the intent on causing harm to Americans while enriching themselves. Today, I am proud to vote for the Laken-Riley Act to ensure illegal immigrants like Laken's killer will be detained and deported before they victimize more Americans. This is the first of several needed steps to strengthen our laws to end this grave issue that our country is facing. So a bunch of other comments coming in, including the likes of Congressman David Rouser, freshman Congressman Tim Moore, Greg Murphy, all of them commenting on the Laken-Riley Act that did move in the House. It is now expected to advance in the Senate. The Senate cleared the 60-vote threshold in the Senate yesterday to begin debate on the Laken-Riley Act with a vote of 84-9. The bill easily clearing that 60-vote threshold. Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader from New York, said, "This is an important issue. We should have a debate and amendments." He said to my colleagues, "This is not a vote for the bill itself. It is a motion to proceed, a vote that says we should have a debate and we should have amendments." The openness from some Democrats to support this legislation comes as the party recalibrates its outlook on immigration and dealing with some of these issues after getting pummeled over the issue politically in the 2024 election. plenty of exit polling and various political polls leading up to the election cited immigration as a top issue, and all of those polls showed that voters felt much more confident with Trump and Republicans dealing with that issue versus Harris and the Democrats. So we'll see some additional movement on that, and we'll likely get some comments coming in. We actually did get some comments in coming from individuals like Ted Budd about the Laken Riley Act. We'll have some of that audio coming up for you a little bit later on this morning right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour. It's now 5:10, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. We are expecting some winter weather to affect some of our major metros across the state of North Carolina as we head deeper into the day today on Friday. That includes both the Raleigh and Charlotte area. To get some more details on the preparation that's going on from the state level, it's my pleasure to welcome Brianna Kramer from the Carolina Journal back to the News Hour this morning. Snow doesn't happen very often in North Carolina, obviously outside of the mountains, but the central and eastern part of the state don't see it very often, Brianna, and this has got state officials scrambling to make sure they've got all their prep done. What does some of that prep look like?
Yes, that's right. Transportation authorities are preparing North Carolina's roadways for some slick conditions later today as weather forecasts show snow moving into the area for the first time in over 1,000 days. So the NC Department of Transportation began a large-scale salt brining operation on Wednesday morning, and they've been continuing to prepare roads and salt the roads and just get everything underway through Friday when the storm is supposed to roll in to Charlotte sometime in the early afternoon and then into the Raleigh-Durham area later in the afternoon.
And with that, there's obviously a lot of transplants in the state, a lot of folks from places much further north than North Carolina. We're only talking in most areas, maybe 1 to 2, 3 inches of snow. So not a whole bunch of snowpack, but it is something, as you noted, the first time in 1,000 days for some areas. This doesn't happen very often, and I guess from the state official standpoint and from the general resident standpoint, it's not something they're super accustomed or familiar with.
Yeah, that's right. So they wanted to make sure that the public is aware of their preparations. So NCDOT held a press conference on Wednesday just to go over what they're doing in advance. And then they are scheduled to have another press conference on Friday evening at 7 p.m. So they'll be delivering the latest updates and news to the public. And then again on Saturday morning. So they've been a little concerned because of the cold temperatures as well. So that's why they've been working quickly and ahead of time. That's why they started on Wednesday. Their window was reduced to when they can actually apply brine to the roads. This is what they were explaining during their press conference. So really they were looking for mid-20s and sunny weather. And so that's why they've been busy right now preparing and around the Raleigh area. They have 15,000 lane miles across the area. And they have roughly 350 trucks and operators. They use contractors as well of coverage area. So it's not normal for the area, but they're doing all they can ahead of time to get their everything in order ahead of time so that they can make sure everybody is being safe and cautious as the conditions can turn icy and slick for everybody on the road.
And while this is going to be an issue as we get into the afternoon and evening hours, I guess there could be some traffic issues statewide earlier in the morning, drive time, people heading into work, because there will probably be some more of these trucks out and about statewide today and probably on more of our major interstates, salting and brining and getting all that prep laid for those major roadways.
Yeah, that's right. So they were sticking to the smaller roads earlier in the week. But of course, they'll be on the major highways and major roads and addressing those first. And they also have salt, a lot of salt obviously on hand, but they also have salt brining plants. So in Wake County, for example, they have a facility that's able to produce 320 gallons of brine per minute. And so really the issue is not so much supply of salt and getting the supply and production that they need, but rather the distribution. So really it's just going to be a matter of time to make sure they have the people to get out there and help keep our roads safe.
No question about that. Where can folks read more on your story this morning, Brianna?
Yeah, just go to carolinajournal.com to read the latest.
Stay safe out on the roadways. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. We will get a look at traffic this morning. We'll take a look with Boomer Von Cannon.
Hey, thank you, Nick. We're in pretty good.
You're hot.
It's 5:19. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Good Friday morning to you. Well, ahead of the winter weather that is the top of the news all across the state this morning, yesterday, Governor Josh Stein declared a statewide state of emergency ahead of the upcoming winter weather. He said in his press release, this storm will likely bring significant impacts from snow, sleet, and freezing rain in different parts of the state. North Carolinians should pay close attention to their local weather forecast and make sure they are prepared with what they need at home before Friday afternoon, and stay home if possible, as ice on the roadways will likely create dangerous driving conditions. According to Stein's office, earlier in the week on Wednesday, there was unanimous concurrence from the Council of State when Stein activated state resources to set in motion a cross-agency storm response ahead of the storm's arrival later on today and enable potential of federal reimbursement if the event qualifies. In preparation for the winter storm, as we were just talking about with Brianna, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has begun the process of brining and salting roads. They are working around the clock in 12-hour shifts and will continue to do so to plow and treat snow and ice until all state-maintained roads are clear, according to Stein's office. Will Ray said, the North Carolina Emergency Management Director, state emergency officials are monitoring the situation and are prepared to assist the counties and municipalities if needed. Residents across the state should also be prepared to shelter in place. If the power goes out, be sure to operate generators outside and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. Stein's office noted that a winter storm, some sort of winter weather advisories are in effect for 98 counties across the state. There are 100 counties in North Carolina, so literally all of them but two that are right on the coast, New Hanover and Brunswick, are dealing with some of those winter weather advisories this morning. Stein's office says hazardous travel conditions are expected Friday, and in some areas, especially further out to the west, most of the mountains could continue until parts of Monday morning. Areas of black ice will be possible, along with scattered power outages where snow and ice accumulations are the heaviest. We're expecting that in the central and eastern part of the state, with some of those icing totals getting, at least from some models, look to be pretty heavy. That could lead to some pretty dramatic power outages. The Department of Transportation is urging people not to travel during the storm unless it is absolutely necessary. So it should be an interesting day across the state. As the governor noted and state officials note, keep tuned to those local weather forecasts throughout the day here on News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT. It's now 5:22. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. In his first few days as Attorney General, Jeff Jackson is already working on legal challenges across the state of North Carolina. He has joined 9 other states in suing various groups in regards to using algorithms to set the price of rent. To get some more details on that this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome the editor-in-chief of CarolinaJournal.com, Donna King, to the News Hour this morning. Donna, he's only been in office less than a week now, and Jeff Jackson already joining a whole bunch of other prominent large states in this suit. What are the details that you're tracking?
Sure. Yes, there's 9 states involved in this, including North Carolina's brand new Attorney General, Jeff Jackson. This lawsuit is against 6 landlords in North Carolina, and most of them have multiple apartment housing complexes, a lot of them in some of the bigger cities, Charlotte, certainly Raleigh, those areas. And what the accusations are from Jeff Jackson is that these apartment owners are using a digital service, an algorithm, to set prices based on what the market will bear. And he says that what it is this algorithm is giving them a chance to coordinate their pricing structure among their competitors, meaning that it would, in his words, frustrates the natural forces of competition. That's what this lawsuit alleges. So, on the one side, you have the landlord saying, look, we are disappointed that DOJ is taking this lawsuit, and that we, work with integrity, and we, work for the people that we serve and the communities that we serve, and that we do not frustrate, we do not engage in anti-competitive practices. That's what the response has been from these landlords. So it's going to be a vigorous fight. I really think so. And so we're watching closely to see, what happens with this lawsuit first, and also, what it means in light of Senate Bill 382, which was passed by the legislature, which puts some guardrails on what the Attorney General can sue over.
So I guess from reading the legal document and some of the challenges, it really stems around this algorithm, Donna. It seems as if these various apartment communities and industries that have evolved around this, if they were just simply looking at their competitors' pricing and doing it manually themselves, there wouldn't be a lawsuit here. I guess it's got everything to do with that an algorithm is doing some of this work in the back end?
that's what the accusation is that this using this service. The service is called RealPage, and what it does is it takes information that is not publicly available and offers pricing recommendations, meaning that one apartment complex A now knows what apartment complex B across the street is charging, and so they can make sure that they are in line to in what Attorney General Jeff Jackson says is make it a common price, so that one apartment unit can't lowball another, and get a competitive advantage that way, that they're just setting a price that means that it's not competitive. That said, I think this is my own take. This certainly is not one piece of this. My own take is that because we're in the middle of looking for this for my young adult children, these apartment complexes aren't the only housing availability in those areas. There are some areas where certainly they are, and that's something to think about. But there are other housing units and other areas and that kind of thing. So that's the question. Are they controlling the market by coordinating and conspiring, for lack of a better word, on pricing?
Well, and Donna, we see this in a lot of large cities, whether it's in or outside of North Carolina. There is always this conversation and chatter about the cost of housing, whether it's physically going out and buying a house or renting a house from somebody that already owns it or renting an apartment complex. The common thread, the common concern is that it's just too expensive in most of these major metropolitan areas. In this state, it would be probably Asheville, Raleigh, Charlotte, Wilmington, some of those areas where those prices are a little bit more higher than the rest of the state. But this isn't anything new.
No, certainly not. And I do think we're looking at a whole new generation of apartment living for young adults, because as we go through them, the individual spaces are much smaller, a lot more common area, much more of a sort of community involvement or community engagement within the unit. So there is a different take on how these places are. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing in them. So they are kind of a different product in the marketplace, and it's drawing that sort of young professional person. So I think that's what some of these groups are, is that they're seeing this and we have a similar product. We're going to, make sure that we're priced competitively for each other. But according to Jeff Jackson's lawsuit, using what they call, the product is called RealPage, you're getting information. You can't just do a Google search, and it's giving you pricing recommendation, which kind of creates a floor, or it sets a price that is not competitive because they can't outbid each other according to market demand.
Now, this to me seems like it could be an opportunity for private individuals that rent their property, Donna, to come in below. If truly all of these prices are being fixed by these major entities that operate these and build these apartment complexes, private consumers that rent their properties out full time, seems like this could be a huge marketplace for them if that was happening.
That's a really good point, because, zoning is an issue sometimes in those cases, like sometimes granny pods or, making places available to rent or rooms to rent is not necessarily allowed in that neighborhood. So anybody who was interested in doing that, it is an opportunity if it's allowed in your community. So, getting in there and knowing what the zoning laws are. Certainly Wilmington had some difficulty, as you know, with VRBO and the short-term leases or short-term rentals. So, knowing what your local community zoning is key to taking advantage of that. But I think you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see a whole new shift in how people view, apartment rentals.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the changes that are going to be happening at the federal level just over the next couple of weeks, the inauguration coming up on the 20th. Is this something where the federal government can step in and squash what these states are doing if the new Trump administration and the leaders there at the DOJ say, yeah, what you're doing here is not something that we want to partake in at all?
I think so. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot of shifts happening, but I also think that local communities know what they need and what the residents of those communities need. Having, encouraging building and encouraging, competition, those are all the things that will probably help resolve some of this issue. But pushing those rules and those regulations down to the local community is always going to be best.
You can read more details on that story by visiting our website this morning, carolinajournal.com. Where it's now 5:29, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. Expecting some winter weather on the roadways or a little bit later on today. Let's get an update right now with Boomer Von Cannon.
Yes, sir, Nick. Thank you, sir.
It's 5:35. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. Good Friday morning to you. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. Well, a state government retiree is asking the North Carolina Supreme Court this morning to take up his class action lawsuit seeking an increase in retiree benefits. The state's second highest court issued a split ruling against the plaintiff in Michael Hughes in November of last year. Hughes wrote in a Supreme Court petition yesterday, under the plain language of North Carolina General Statute 135-5, if active North Carolina state employees receive a cost of living adjustment, or a COLA, C-O-L-A, to their pay in any given year, and if that same year if that same year retired state employees receive a COLA, then the adjustment must be comparable. Unfortunately, the COLAs provided to retirees in recent years were not comparable to the cost of living provided to active state employees in those years. Hughes filed suit on behalf of current and future government retirees seeking to remedy the clear violation of state law and to uphold the settled contractual rights of state retirees to their retirement benefits, according to the court filing. A trial judge rejected the state defendant's motion to dismiss the case, but the State Court of Appeals voted 2-1 to reverse that ruling. Looking at some of the verbiage here from Hughes's lawyers, they wrote, "The majority opinion characterizes Hughes's claims as seeking, on behalf of retirees, a proactive and absolute right to the cost of living increase according to active employees of the state." And then the opinion noted that retirees have no vested right to receive COLA under General Statute 135-5, but that's not what Hughes is claiming. His actual claim mirrors the plain text of that same general statute. Hughes is not claiming that retirees must receive a cost of living adjustment. He is claiming that if retirees receive a cost of living adjustment, then it must be comparable to the same given to active employees. And he is claiming that retirees are owed compensation for their incomparable cost of living adjustments they have received in recent years. His lawyers argued the state employee retirement system serves hundreds of thousands of current members, and they will serve more as active employees retire. All put together, class members, the cost of living adjustment previously given to retirees are not comparable to those given to active employees, which violates the law. The court filing explained, in fact, recent cost of living adjustments given to state retirees are less than the rate of inflation, meaning that the real value of retirement benefits are decreasing. Thus, all present and future retired state employees have a direct interest in this case. That's why this is being described as a class action lawsuit. The full 15-member North Carolina Court of Appeals announced on December the 31st that it would not hear Hughes's case. 4 appellate judges would have allowed the case to proceed to a rare en banc hearing of the full court. A 3-judge appellate panel on November the 18th decided to reverse a Wake County trial judge who had ruled in December of 2023 that Hughes's class action suit could proceed against the state retirement system covering teachers, state workers, judicial employees, legislative staff, first responders, anybody that is a state employee. Hughes worked with the Department of Administration from 1994 to 2012 when he retired. At that point, he started drawing more than $1,800 in monthly retirement benefits. He has received 7 cost of living adjustments since retiring, including a 4% increase in 2023, according to court filings. Yet Hughes argued in the lawsuit filed on behalf of state retirees in April of 2022 that state law requires cost of living increases comparable to those of active state employees, according to the original appeals court decision. The suit argued that the retiree system had requested those cost of living adjustments and that they were inadequate in terms of the amount required by state law. The retirement system, overseen by then State Treasurer Dale Folwell, argued that the lawsuit should be dismissed because of sovereign immunity. Falwell appealed the trial judge ruling to the North Carolina's second highest court. Judge John Tyson of the court's majority wrote at the time, "The plaintiffs seek a proactive and absolute contractual right to the cost of living increases according to active employees. Defendants have not demonstrated any vested right either existed or was hindered. The plaintiffs have a contractual right to rely on the terms of their retirement plan as these terms existed at the moment of their retirement rights became vested, not a proactive or future vested right to cost of living increases." Tyson focused on the language in the state law, General Statute 135-5, where it says the plain language stating retired members may receive increases in retirement allowances is discretionary and are not mandatory, he wrote. The second sentence explains the prior sentence states that the increases shall be comparable to the cost of living salary increases for active members, and it provides the amounts of the increase, if appropriated by the General Assembly. Chief District Judge and Chris Dillon joined Tyson's opinion. Both are Republicans. Judge Toby Hampson, a Democrat, dissented, and now this case, could potentially make its way in front of the the highest court in our state, the North Carolina Supreme Court. It was previously under the appellate court. You can read more details on this story and check out some of those additional things by checking out our website, carolinajournal.com. Taking a look at what we are expecting a little bit later on in the state today, Governor Josh Stein has declared a state of emergency ahead of upcoming winter weather. Stein is urging people across North Carolina to prepare for cold temperatures, snow, and ice. He said yesterday in his state of emergency declaration, this storm will likely bring significant impacts from snow, sleet, and freezing rain in different parts of the state. North Carolinians should pay close attention to their local weather forecasts, make sure they are prepared with what they need at home before Friday afternoon, and stay home if possible, as ice on the roadways will likely create dangerous driving conditions. The Council of State unanimously agreed with Stein and activated state resources to set in motion a cross-agency storm response ahead of the storm's arrival later on today, enabling a potential of federal reimbursement if the event is bad enough and qualifies. In preparation, if you're out on the roadways this morning, you might see the individuals with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. They are under the process right now of salting and brining roads. They are working round the clock in 12-hour shifts once the snow begins to fall to plow and beforehand to treat snow and ice until all state-maintained roads are clear. Will Ray, who is the North Carolina Emergency Management Director, said state emergency officials are monitoring the situation and are prepared to assist various counties and municipalities if needed. He noted that residents across the state should be prepared to shelter in place and noted that if power goes out, be sure to operate generators outside and away from open windows or doors to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. 98 counties this morning are under some sort of winter weather advisories, whether that's winter storm watches or warnings. In the mountains, we are expecting some of heavy snowfall, 3 to 7 inches as you work your way east from the mountains, 1, 2, 3 inches, and as you get much further out to the east, closer to the Wilmington and Greenville area, it's expected to be more ice and freezing rain than snow itself. So some hazardous conditions expected across the state today. Keep tuned to weather forecasts right here on News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT, where it's now 5:44. You're listening to the Carolina Journal News Hour. We'll get another look at the roadways early on this Friday morning with the great Boomer Von Cannon.
No way, sir.
Hot.
Good morning again. Welcome back to the Carolina Journal News Hour. It's 5:50, News Talk 1110, 99.3 WBT. As we talked about a little bit earlier this morning, up in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, the U.S. House of Representatives passed House Resolution 29, known as the Laken Riley Act, in a vote of 264 to 159. 48 Democrats voting in favor of that legislation. That bill's got two primary purposes. First, it amends federal law to require Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to issue detainers and take custody of illegal aliens who commit theft-related crimes as defined by state and federal laws. Second, according to a press release, it allows the state attorney generals to sue the Department of Homeland Security for injunctive relief, such as parole, violation of detention, and other policy failures that harm the state or its citizens. That, again, passed in the House at 264 to 159, and it is now advancing its way in the Senate. Yesterday, they voted to begin debate on the Laken Riley Act, clearing a hurdle to advance the bill that aims to crack down on illegal immigration. That passed at the vote of 84 to 9, which easily cleared the 60-vote threshold that is required in the Senate. However, the Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said that this is an important issue. We should have debates and amendments. To remind my colleagues, this is not a vote on the bill itself. It is a motion to proceed, a vote that we should have debate and should have amendments. This is a very different tune than we heard from the Senate. Obviously, a major power shift in the Senate. Republicans now hold the majority. And we did get some comments yesterday from the Senate side. U.S. Senator Ted Budd, one of our two senators here in North Carolina, commenting on the Laken Riley Act on Capitol Hill. Take a listen.
Leader Thune, I just want to thank you for making this a priority. I mean, this is one of the very first votes in the 119th Congress for the Senate, and it certainly reflects the priorities of November 5th and your priorities as well. So I want to thank also my colleague, Senator Britt, for her leadership, who worked this across the aisle within her own conference and has just done a tremendous job. I see this as a father and as a father of two daughters, and I can't imagine what the family has gone through. And I know many of us have children, and we hope that we never face what this family has faced. Now, I also think, even though this took place in Representative Collins' district, I think about my state of North Carolina and what the sheriffs of all 100 counties, most of them have said to me. They said every single county in North Carolina is now a border county because of Joe Biden's policies. And so we've seen that the devastation of those policies in this tragedy that we saw last year. And policies, they have tragic consequences. Laken Riley was a wonderful nursing student with a bright future, and she was murdered by an illegal alien from Venezuela. This killer should have been stopped, but tragically he wasn't. He should have been stopped at the border in 2022, but he was paroled into the country. He should have been detained when he was arrested in New York in 2023, but he wasn't. He should have been detained when he was arrested for shoplifting, but again, tragically, he wasn't. And we can't let something like this happen again. The Laken Riley Act requires ICE to detain illegal aliens who commit theft and shoplifting. And every Senate Republican supports this, including what we saw with the motion to proceed. And again, there's more work to do, as you mentioned earlier. But we're optimistic, and we're going to continue to work on this. And I can't think of a single reason why any senator would oppose the Laken Riley Act.
That's U.S. Senator Ted Budd in Washington, D.C. yesterday after that Senate vote to move forward with the legislation. Again, that vote 84 to 9. That was not passing the bill. It's the threshold required to advance it in the Senate, where it will now go through debate and will likely have some amendments. We'll keep a close eye on those details and pass them along to you as soon as we get them right here on the Carolina Journal News Hour. Taking a look at some other statewide news this morning. On Tuesday, newly sworn in North Carolina Attorney General Jeff Jackson joined the U.S. Department of Justice and 9 other states in suing 6 major landlords for allegedly using RealPage, a piece of software to raise rents and suppress competition. The lawsuit claims that the landlords who own or manage over 70,000 units across the state of North Carolina used RealPage's pricing algorithm to set rents on 1/3 of the state's 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, particularly in metro areas like Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte. The new Attorney General and Jeff Jackson emphasized the need for fair rental practices, stating that landlords should not exploit renters to boost profits. Those various landlords deny wrongdoing and pledge to fight the lawsuit, as does RealPage, which attributes rising housing costs due to a lack of supply rather than just its software doing what it does. The DOJ's broader case filed in August alleges that RealPage violated antitrust law by enabling landlords to share sensitive information which artificially inflated rents and undermined competitive market forces. The lawsuit seeks to ensure fair competition and affordability in those rental markets. That is coming in from Jeff Jackson's office this morning. Again, that lawsuit in part is an ongoing case filed by the DOJ. They are alleging that RealPage is exploiting landlords' sensitive information to create that algorithm, and that's what they claim is the part that violates that antitrust law. The lawsuit alleges that landlords communicated with RealPage to share non-public information about rent prices, occupancy, discounts, and strategies for setting rent. In sharing this sensitive non-public information, the DOJ claims that it allowed landlords to use the RealPage product to set higher prices than it would have been set by competitive market forces. So there's a bunch of states on this. You've got, of course, the DOJ, North Carolina, as well as California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Minnesota, Oregon, Tennessee, and Washington against RealPage and those various landlord clients. Jackson joining that lawsuit. We'll see where that goes. There obviously is going to be some changes at the DOJ coming up here in less than 10 days. We'll keep an eye on the impacts that might have as well. Expecting some tricky weather across the state today. A state of emergency is in effect for all 100 counties across the state of North Carolina. Make sure you're safe out there if you are traveling today. And that's going to do it for a Friday edition of the Carolina Journal News Hour. WBT News is next, followed by Good Morning BT. We're back Monday morning, 5 to 6, right here